Hey guys, welcome back to episode 3. So today what we're planning on doing is we're going to be mounting up the door panel on the passenger side. Like I mentioned before, you've already seen that on episode 1. We're going to skip along through it a little bit faster than what we normally are into. Alright, so let's get started. Okay, so what I ended up taking the liberty doing is throwing up a strip of tape already on it. I threw a strip of tape right here, holding it tight against the actual door panel. And then along the bottom, I ended up doing another strip of tape. So the door panel will not fall off. It closes really nicely also. So what we're gonna quickly do is just throw a couple more strips of tape just to secure a couple of spots, and then we'll be running our self-tap screws through it, and then that will be done. Before I forget, I'm going to make sure that this line here is consistent. I don't have any goofy looking lines. So also, if you're trying to manipulate fiberglass panels, you cannot use metal tools when you're trying to wedge them in place or anything. You will crack them. So use something that's a little bit softer. And in this case, I have a plastic trim panel removal tool. It's curved a specific way, so that way I can get some leverage without having to put too much pressure on the fiberglass panels and risk cracking them. I just noticed before I started screwing anything in and just making sure everything lines up is I want to make sure that this line, especially right here, is level to the touch, and also it looks consistent with the body line. I don't need this thing to look goofy. Just double check things before you go ahead and finalize everything, because if I would have tech screwed into the panel, that would have made a pretty big mess trying to correct that. Okay, so for the most part, I think that is good. Let's at least get our first self-tapper in this corner here. That way we're able to secure it, and then we'll run it again in the middle, and then on the edge. Carry it down on the edge of the panel there, maybe 1 or 2 on the bottom, just to replicate the other side. Let's go. right, sweet. So we can see that the lines here are pretty consistent. We got a lot of screws holding in there. This panel also had a lot of weird flex. It's kind of worked backwards on us. The crash damage side was very minimum effort. The non-crash damage side just seemed to be giving us a lot of issues. But sometimes that's just the way it goes. All right, so I'm just gonna quickly grab the side skirt. Just check clearances on that, make sure that we're all okay. I did quickly test fit it though before I went to commence. I did quickly test fit it though just before I started the work, but we'll do it again just to make sure. Not expecting anything to fit up front because I don't have anything adjusted yet or mounted. It's just as long as I'm able to open and close the door without it grinding on anything. Okay, good enough. To keep the momentum going, now that we're done the door panel, don't need to be redundant and keep on going on that. Let's actually shift gears a little bit and see what's going on with the rear bumper. Now this corner doesn't want to fit. It's pretty funny because last time it fit perfectly fine. But then again, everything was just taped in place. There was no rigidness to nothing or whatnot. Not necessarily that we screwed everything into the wrong place. It's just now it doesn't have flex back or whatnot, so it's not falling into place. A few things I can do about it not fitting so nicely in this corner. I can just keep on sanding away. But what it is it's gonna get too thin on this wing and eventually it'll just crack right on off, and I don't want that, especially how brittle this corner is. So the next best thing is to start taking away from this part right here. That way, this is gonna cover it anyhow, so if we take too much material away and it gets thin, it's gonna be fine because I'll be gluing it in those specific areas anyhow. And we'll be running screws through also just to secure the wings to the wheel well. So I'm not too concerned. More sanding. So things that we're going to look for too when we're trying to mount the rear bumper permanently is we want to make sure that the gap for the trunk lid is also even to side. Not necessarily height wise because we already have our brackets for the taillights right in the center and then also on the side here. So it's more of just side to side, just trying to get it what looks the best. We are hitting up on the factory exhaust, just on the little diffuser piece, but this bumper was never meant to run the factory exhaust on the GTT anyhow. It's a GTR design, and the GTR exhaust is a lot different. So let's get the trunk lid open back up and start going on a couple holes there. These are the 3 mold holes right here. They were just molded over because they don't drill any of the holes for you. You have to figure it all out yourself. Yeah, so I just drilled smaller holes. They all lined up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make this a bigger hole because you don't need much force to hold this specific part onto the end panel. There's a long bracket that goes across. So just black plastic push-type clips will work just fine. Perfect, they all line up, so that is awesome. Okay, so now with the end panel part taken care of, what we can do is we can just make sure that this all still fits, which it does, which is good. We're gonna have to be careful going ahead and mounting these wing parts, just because we don't necessarily know the body line yet of the side skirt tying in with the front fender. So we don't know exactly what pitch to set it at, so we do need to be careful with that. But the holes for the rear bumper on the end panel have already been drilled, so that pretty much sets it for us as far as the side to side that I was talking about before. So let's call this a success. All right, so let's get this wheel back on the car. Let's get it on the ground, push the car back further a little bit, and let's check out the engine bay. I'm excited to get started on that too. Okay guys, bad news. Unfortunately, we ended up stripping a couple of the first threads on this stud here. So I ended up running out to the hardware store. I got a tap and a die for that stud, and then also for the lug nut too that I tried using it on. Yeah, shoot. Oh well, let's try to clean this all up. So we'll just make sure that it threads on first of all to the other studs effortlessly, as you can see. Try it on the next one. Yeah, that one should be good also. That one didn't seem to have a good time either. That one threads on effortlessly. A little bit of a hiccup, but that's expected. It is not loving life. All right, I gotta get the handle on that. So the handle, it just wasn't working out too well. So let's just get a ratchet wrench on there. Same principle. Yeah, now you can see it's gonna start spinning freely. Yeah, I definitely buggered this one up, but thankfully, with the proper tools, we can recover it. Alright, so now for the lug nut that's actually stripped out, what we'll do is we'll get it set in the vise straight as possible. We don't want it to move. Don't want to go too tight. I don't feel like breaking the lug nut. So this is the tap. I'll get the handle here all set up. So you line it up as straight as possible. Try to feed into the grooves. And you need to start twisting. You want to run it up and down a couple times. Notice how it was free spinning fairly easy. That means that we got it. So let's go ahead and test it and see how we made out. Oh, perfect. Like a brand new one all over again. That's awesome. Gonna call this one a win. Let's get that tire on. So whenever I lift anything with my car, I use a piece of 2x4. It just helps spread out on the load, and that way too you're not damaging anything. also forgotten how low this car actually is. Especially with the new adjustable suspension too. Okay, so unfortunately that took a little bit more of our time than I initially thought. We'll check back in on episode 4 and we'll get started on some of the engine stuff. Thanks a lot guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please make sure you go back to the previous video and you like and subscribe to the channel, and then you comment on that video to tell me you've done so. That way you have the entry for the 250 sub action camera giveaway. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.